Hello everyone and welcome to Farm Bureau's Voices of Agriculture. This week coming to you from the state of Mississippi. On the show this time we take a look at the historic flood of 2011 and how it impacted so many of Mississippi's farmers. We also visit a small dairy farm where they bottle and market their own milk. And finally, we visit the Mississippi Children's Museum and see how the children of our state are getting an education about agriculture. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Farming has been my family's business for 8 generations. I'm proud to be one of the Mississippi farmers who provides food to families that is safe, reliable, and affordable. In some countries, families spend up to half their income on food, while here in America, we spend about 10%, just 10%. Support Mississippi farmers. Buy Mississippi-grown products and food. It's good for your family, it's good for Mississippi.
The Farm Families of Mississippi.
The Mississippi River is the largest river system in North America. It's over 2,300 miles long, originating in Minnesota and flowing slowly southward to the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi drains all or parts of 31 U.S. states, stretching from the Rocky Mountains in the west to the Appalachian Mountains in the east, and is the 4th longest river in the world and the 10th most powerful river in the world. In late April and early May, heavy rains in the Mississippi River watershed pushed the river to record heights, flooding hundreds of thousands of acres and ruining the chances for a successful crop year for many farmers across Mississippi. With winter wheat not quite ready to harvest, and with corn and soybeans already in the ground, many farmers faced a disaster. Not only will they lose the crop, but they have contracts booked on crops that won't be harvested.
I think everybody was really excited with the high commodity prices. The problem is a lot of people went out and booked $10, $11 soybeans. Now they're at $13, $14, and the elevators are going to want their money if they don't deliver the crop. So, you book 20,000 bushels of soybeans at $10 and it's at $14, all of a sudden you're owing $80,000 on top of not making a crop.
As the river was rising, Miller, who farms in Sharkey County, felt helpless.
Well, right now we're all kind of waiting. We're watching the river. It's supposed to top the backwater levees at 56.2 feet and come over the backwater levee, which it was designed to do. The Corps said that it would not break at a hole. They've had levees do that before, so we're waiting to see if that's going to happen. They're talking about this area here of having 95 foot of water on it, which would put us in about 4 foot of water where we're standing today. And it will affect most every farm that's not on Deer Creek in this area.
While Miller said that some, but not all of his land will flood, the same cannot be said for Doug Jeter. Jeter farms about 500 acres of soybeans, wheat, and corn in Warren County. The river took his farm early.
All of it. Everything's underwater. Lost all my wheat, lost my beans, and there won't be anything left, I guess you could say, on the west side of 61 for anybody that's farming in this area. I called the Corps yesterday checking to see about further down the line about replanting, even if we're going to get to plant. And at this time, they still don't know. Out to June the 20th, I think they had the river like at 46.7 feet. And at that stage, I'm still all underwater at June the 20th. And that's getting beyond your planting date then. So right now, we're not sure if we're going to even be able to plant this year.
At the same time Jeter is mourning the just planted crops in his field, some farmers were trying to save crops that they'd had in the field since last fall. Emile Guedon and his family farm in Adams County near Natchez. Their red winter wheat crop was nearly ready for harvest.
What we're basically trying to do, Mr. Gregg, is cut the wheat before the water gets on it. But we're trying to give it as long as we can in the field to dry down before we cut it. So we're just cutting what the water's going to take every day. It's not completely dry down in the field. We're running about 20% moisture, and we're having to run it through a grain dryer.
So how much is it taking a day? How much are you having to harvest a day?
Around 50 or 60 acres on this one place. Now we've got 2 more combines in 2 separate places doing the same thing we are. That wheat's a little bit more wet than ours, than this place down here. We've been cutting down here since last Thursday.
Guedon says his plans for this year are still up in the air.
Well, we're gonna see how long the river comes up. I mean, how long it stays up and when it starts falling back. Our fear right now is it's such a big river and it's a little later than most rivers. Most of them we get crested in April, big rivers, but we're not sure we're gonna be able to plant everything behind it, you know, in the fall. I mean, to plant it in time to cut it.
What's your cutoff date?
Well, it depends on how much we get planted before we set our cutoff date. We've planted beans behind the river in the middle of July, and I don't like to plant them much later than that. My grandfather and uncles, they've planted them in August before, but usually our yield drops significantly with beans planted in August.
The river crested in mid-May, but that was not the end of the problems for agriculture. The water started its slow descent, but didn't get below flood stage in most areas until mid-June. Rob Coker from Yazoo County would be what most people would consider a large-scale farmer.
Well, I've expanded this year when my neighbor retired, and I'm farming 7,500 acres this year, or trying to. Planted 4,300 acres of corn, and I had 750 acres of wheat, and was going to plant the remainder in soybeans. We stopped planting as the floodwater started coming up and started getting our center pivots, our engines, our wellheads, electric panels, and protecting equipment. Took us about a week to do that as we waited for the floodwaters. Then we sat around and said, is it coming? And it did. We've lost anywhere between 2,500 and 3,000 acres of corn. I estimate I had a total of probably 4,500 acres underwater at the peak, at the crest.
Coker is asking himself the same question as many other farmers. What do we do now?
If I have to do tillage, I may put soybeans in there. And that's going to be decisions that we go field by field, case by case. Our plans are to plant our irrigated land first. We're fearful that we're not going to be able to get it all replanted into a crop. So we're going to focus on our irrigated land where we have the higher yield potential and protection from the heat and the drought. And then we'll move into more, the dry land areas. My goal is to break even. I told my banker and tell people that my goal is to break even. If I can make a little money, I would just be overjoyed. But if I could break even, I think we would have a very successful year. And so that's our goal.
Matt Edgar farms next door to Coker in Yazoo County, but he lost 75% of his crops.
Well, right now, what we ended up getting flooded completely was about 1,650 acres. That consisted of about 650 acres of wheat, about 500 acres of corn, and the balance was in beans, somewhere between 400 and 500 acres. The wheat was in about 2 weeks of being ready to harvest. The corn, we had almost finished everything on it with the exception of a little fertilizer, and the soybeans were up and growing about a month old. We saved about 500 acres of corn and 150 acres of wheat, that's all we saved.
These farmers are in need of some help to keep their operations in business. Fortunately, the companies that provide their seed have stepped up to the plate.
One of them's giving 60% replant, one of them's giving 75% replant. So that's going to help us on some of the cost of the seed. And, we're hoping for a good bean crop and good prices. And if the Lord's willing and everything works well, we will be able to cash flow.
While row crop farmers have been the focus of most of the damage, other areas of agriculture were affected also. Mississippi leads the nation in farm-raised catfish production, and for a while it looked like many of the catfish ponds in the Delta were going to be flooded and the fish were going to just swim away. But that industry seemed to dodge the bullet.
We only had a small number of acres in extreme southeastern part of the Delta that was impacted. Several of those farms down that area were luckily protected by interior levees, so they were spared. It did disrupt some processing and some production as well, but I think we were very, very lucky. If any of those interior levees had given away, the worst case scenario would have been that we'd have had water all the way up to Highway 12, in Belzona.
Many people incorrectly assume that farmers are insured for all losses, or will get disaster payments to bail them out. Doug Jeter filed for disaster payments in 2008 and 2009, and he just recently received the 2008 payment.
I got it in October of last year, 2.5 years later. I got it for 2008, and I still hadn't got it for 2009. So just because they declared a disaster area don't think you're gonna have relief, because it's not that much anyway compared to what you're losing.
The joke on disaster payments are usually if you survive the disaster and get to the payments, you've made it anyway. It takes so long, and they're usually not very good payments. A couple years ago they gave $17 an acre on soybeans, and it takes a lot more than $17 an acre to grow soybeans.
Officials say that flooding in Mississippi has caused between $250 and $500 million in damages to agriculture. From the loss of an almost ready wheat crop, to the loss of crops already planted, to the loss of seed that was already in the grain bins, the full effects of the flood of 2011 may not be known for a long, long time.
The sound of these bees is the sound of a safe environment and of an important source of safe, affordable food. Honey is a specialty crop produced in our state that is created from plants in our area. Mississippi beekeepers provide a safe, abundant, and affordable supply of honey to homes and restaurants statewide, while byproducts are used in soaps and other skincare products. Support Mississippi beekeepers. Buy locally produced honey. The farm families of Mississippi.
The sagging economic situation in the last few years has forced many Mississippi dairy farmers out of business. But hard work, dedication, and a belief that the public wants to buy locally produced products has allowed one Mississippi farmer to start a unique dairy farm in North Mississippi. Billy Ray Brown had no previous experience managing a dairy herd, but a trip to the local grocery store one night sparked an idea.
I was shopping with my wife one night and noticed the organic milk that they had, and people were buying a lot of that. And when I picked that carton up, I noticed it came from Colorado. And I knew at the time, and still now, people are buying a lot of local products. And to me, it just didn't make sense to ship milk that far. Especially, when we could grow it here. We got grass, we can do it right here. And I thought that people would be more interested in buying milk from local farmers than from some farm 1,500 miles away.
So he kept toying with the idea in his head, talked to some people at Mississippi State, and decided to just jump in with both feet.
Quit my full-time job to do it, so fortunately it worked out, but it was kind of scary. I really enjoy the dairy. Like I said, I've always been around cattle, but not dairy cattle. But we enjoy it because, and the main reason, my wife has stayed home with our children. Now we've got 2 in school, but we're all working here together on the farm. She helps me, and now we're still working as many hours as I was before, working 2 or 3 jobs, but we're at home and able to work together. So for us, that's what it's all about, spending time at home with the family.
While most of the 65,000 dairy farms in the country milk less than 200 cows, Brown's operation would be considered microscopic since he only milks between 11 and 14 cows a day. But instead of joining a huge cooperative to sell milk, every drop of that milk is bottled right on his farm and sold locally.
It only takes us about an hour and 15, 20 minutes in the morning, hour and 15 minutes at night to milk, but the rest of our time spent bottling milk or going to a store or to a farmer's market. But in between time, we can go check our beef cows. We have, here in Oxford, we have a store called the Farmer's Market that probably sells the majority of our milk here in Oxford for family milk. They buy the half-gallon bottles and glass, return those to the store. And we also serve about 3 restaurants in Oxford that cook with it and make and bake and all kind of things. And then every Saturday of my life, I go to Hernando, Mississippi, to the square at Hernando and sell milk. In the farmers market season, I think it's like from May to October. There's a lot of other vendors there that sell produce and stuff. But after that's over, I continue to go every Saturday because milk's 7 days a week, and we produce milk every week. And those families will meet us there every Saturday to get their milk, and they'll bring their empty bottles back, and I'll give them fresh milk. And we do that every Saturday, rain or shine. We do that year round.
Brown's Dairy produces a product called cream line milk.
Well, we don't homogenize the milk, so
In the glass bottles, the clear glass bottles, you can obviously see a good cream line there. With a lot of our customers, they're younger people, which have never seen milk that's not been homogenized. So we've had 2 or 3 of them come back and say something's wrong with my milk. You know, it's just, and you have to explain to them that that's the cream. But we do pasteurize our milk. We're regulated by the, of course, State Department of Health. They come out and take samples. The people in their 60s and 70s really go for it because that's how milk was. You know, when they grew up, that's how it was. And of course, they judged the bigger cream line, the better, you know, and that's what they like.
Brown has a very loyal customer base that comes to buy his milk every single week.
And some of them drive, a pretty good way to come down from around Memphis, Olive Branch, Byhalia. They travel a pretty good ways to get your milk. But once they get to buying from you, and I think, you know, you're selling a product, but you're also, not that you're selling yourself, but you know, we try to get people here to our farm. We give free tours. We don't charge anything. We want them to come see these cows, how they're milked, how they're treated. And those people, it does make them feel good to know where that milk's coming from.
And while they're on the farm, they get to see that farmers treat their animals right.
If you don't treat your animals good, they're not going to produce for you. The better you treat them, the happier they're going to be, the more they're going to, whether it's meat, milk, whatever, they're going to produce for you. So I want the public to understand that farmers do love the land and they do love their animals, and if they don't have those, they don't have anything. And that's why we want them to come out here and see it. You know, we welcome anytime. Show up 7 days a week, we'll be here and show it to you.
And while their main business is bottling fluid milk, Brown also markets some meat products raised on his farm.
We run about 100 beef cows, and we have a small hog operation, and we're trying to now retail some pork and some beef. Both pasture-raised pork and then local beef, and just try to be diversified. You know, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket with the dairy. Although it's doing well, we like to be a little diversified.
We'll be right back after this short timeout. Stay with us.
I'll never forget the pride that my dad took in the crops that he grew on our farm. He always said the work we do is important, that we feed Mississippi and the country. We can help people put healthy, safe, and affordable food on their table, and that's a reason to be proud. Americans spend only about 10% of their disposable income on food. In some countries, it's 50%. Mississippi farmers are proud to do our part to help families enjoy safe, healthy food at affordable prices.
The Farm Families of Mississippi.
In December of last year, after almost 10 years in the making, the Mississippi Children's Museum opened its doors to the public. This $26 million facility was inspired by the 2 challenges that Mississippi children face: literacy and health. The 5 galleries of the museum were designed with these 2 things in mind. The first gallery is World at Work. This gallery showcases the different industries that children can be involved in. Agriculture, engineering, manufacturing are all available and prospering here in the state. The Mississippi Heritage Gallery features the landscape of our state, including Mount Woodall and the mighty Mississippi River. There's also an underground geology exhibit exploring our soil and all the different levels under our feet. Most children, and maybe most adults, don't know that the capital city of Jackson sits on a dormant volcano. This gallery also features the many artists and authors who have Mississippi ties. The Health Gallery encourages children to make healthy choices in the food they eat and the activities in which they participate. The Literacy Gallery promotes the wonderful world of reading with an exhibit called Action Verb Gems. And there's an incredible partnership with the Emmy Award-winning PBS television show Between the Lions. The last gallery is the Arts Gallery that encourages children to be inspired by and create their own works of art through painting, dance, and music.
We have wonderful activities at the museum that celebrate agriculture. We have a wonderful, what we call our big red barn that greets children. It's one of the first things children see because it is such an important part of our future and our history here in Mississippi, and it's one of the first things you see when you come into the museum. We have a crop dusting plane. We have all sorts of farm animals that we celebrate. We have Delta crop planting, where we show children different crops that we plant. We also have a farmer's market truck in our health gallery. So What we like to is sort of an interdisciplinary approach to learning that, you know, agriculture is part of almost every part of our life, and it's part of our literature, it's part of our healthy choices. The fruits and vegetables that we grow in Mississippi are choices in our farmer's market truck. In our forestry exhibit, we have a grapple skidder, which is very popular because and our grapple skidder, real foresters helped us develop our grapple skidder. We wanted it to be a really fun, safe activity for children, but at the same time represent what foresters really use. Children are able to take the grapple skidder and use some gross motor skills and move logs from one side to the other. They're also, children love to dress up and imagine, and so they can have a vest and a hat and use some of the safety procedures that our foresters here in Mississippi have to use.
Mississippi leads the nation in farm-raised catfish production, so that's a part of the museum also.
We celebrate catfish, just free catfish in the Mississippi River, and then also our farm catfish on our Mississippi map. Catfish farming is an important part, and children love that exhibit. They are able to weigh catfish and see what size you would keep, and again, we developed a lot of our exhibits with experts in their fields and industries who helped us really get knowledge that we're certainly not experts.
Mississippi Farm Bureau has underwritten part of the program to ensure that agriculture is presented to these impressionable young minds.
We are so proud to have a program that Farm Bureau sponsors, and we have a person on staff that does a weekly program and celebrates some of the activities and things connected to agriculture in our state. Kelsey is a very creative, our program's associate, that designs a program each week, each Friday, and it changes from week to week.
And we're gonna make it into paper, a little piece of paper, and we're gonna put seeds in it. So you can actually take the piece of paper that we're gonna make and plant it underground and water it, and flowers will come up.
She has a very broad choice, and she works on different, so it's never the same. So we have a lot of repeat children that come every week.
I make puppets on Wednesdays, and I keep leftover cut up pieces of construction paper.
Can we come here Wednesday?
And then we have new children. We have children from Alabama, Louisiana, and their families that are coming, so that it is really terrific that we have a variety of topics to choose from, so that our repeat children have something new and interesting each week, and then new children that come to the program have something exciting too as well.
Garrard said that it has been a challenge for a state of our size to raise this much money to put together a world-class museum, but the effort has been worth it.
Mississippi children deserve an excellent, top-notch facility, and we just had some consultants in this week on Wednesday who, in their 25-year history in the Children's Museum world, said this is the #1 new children's museum in the nation, and we were very gratified by that praise. I think we're a little bit proud of that fact that we really have we're shooting for the stars, and as you can see, our rocket elevator in the background next to our agriculture barn, that's one thing that our logo represents to us, is shooting for those high goals.
And that's all the time we have for this edition of Voices of Agriculture. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and will be with us again next time. For all of us here at the Mississippi Farm Bureau, thanks for watching.